Good morning. Thanks for joining me on the Meg Ellefson Show. My next guest from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, Associate Counsel Lauren Groyle. Good morning, Lauren. Did I get your name right?
You did, Meg.
Ooh, all right. I always try to, that's sort of respectful of a guest to ensure that we pronounce their names correctly. So I'm glad. First challenge has been accomplished. So I'm happy to hear that. Well, as always, I like to start when I have any representative from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty on the show to just thank you for what you're doing and thank you for your organization's mission. And I believe that you are on the front lines of defense against the left in trying to take away our freedoms and our liberties, and also protect our freedoms and our liberties. And then secondly, and I don't even know if I'd say secondly, but then also what Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty is committed to doing is to require that our elected officials and also government entities adhere to the law. And it's frustrating, and I say this all the time on this show, how frustrating it is that we have to either sue or threaten a lawsuit in order to get someone to comply with or to adhere to the law. And I know that this particular topic that we're going to discuss has to do with school district in Wisconsin, and I'm going to let you describe it because I know that you're most familiar with what's going on in this school district here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so we filed a letter with the Wrightstown Community School District because a parent came to us with some complaints that she's been bringing up to the school board since February of 2022. The school district has admitted that they're not in compliance with Wisconsin's Human Growth and Development statute, and the school district ignored the law and ignored the parents who were bringing up concerns with this law. So there's three major issues that we found out about from this parent. First, that the school district admitted outright that they have never followed Section 5 of the Wisconsin Human Growth and Development statute, which requires a committee of community members to advise the school board on the design and implementation of the Human Growth and Development curriculum and review the curriculum. The school district said, we've never had a committee do that. And it's required by statute. It's not optional. Second, that the parents of the district are not being fully informed of the curriculum and as such can't make an informed decision about whether or not to opt their students out of the Human Growth and Development curriculum. Statute requires districts to annually provide an outline of the Human Growth and Development curriculum to be used in their students' grade level and information on how the parent can inspect the complete curriculum. But there were topics that were being covered in the Wrightstown School District that parents were completely unaware of. And then third, that the district seems to misunderstand where the Human Growth and Development curriculum is supposed to come from. Per Wisconsin statute, the school board establishes curriculum for the Human Growth and Development statute, or for the Human Growth and Development program. It's not the state, it's not DPI, it's not any other state, it's the school board. There are requirements in the statute that the school board has to follow, but it's not, a universal program that every school district has to implement.
So when I'm looking up Wrightstown, which I must admit I am a Minnesota native, have lived here for 15 years, but looked it up, and Wrightstown is in evidently a village in Brown and Outagamie counties, and I think their population is, at least what I'm looking at, is from the 2010 census, so I'm sure it's inaccurate, but it's probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, between 3,000 and 4,000 people. Right. So it's not a big town, and I guess that's the I don't know, the message in this is that we can't, as conservatives, we can't just make the assumption that our small town is safe from those on the left, because here's a perfect example of how you've just illuminated how they acknowledge that they are not in compliance, and this is a small town, and if it hadn't been for this parent, this mom, concerned mom, perhaps this would have just been this would not have been addressed. And so I guess what I want to ask is how is the district responding now? Are they does it appear, do you think that they are going to make steps to comply, or are they defiant against what they have been doing and I would say breaking the law?
Sure. We're hopeful that the school district will do the right thing and follow the law the way that they're supposed to. Obviously, we would have hoped that when the parent brought this concern back in 2022 that they would have followed the law, but that wasn't the case. So we're hopeful that they'll be compliant. We're asking for them to be compliant, but as of right now, we just sent the letter on Thursday evening, and we haven't heard anything about the steps that they've taken so far. But at this point, it's very possible that they still will, and we're hopeful that they will.
So are there examples that you can cite about some of what is being taught with regard to the human growth and development curriculum?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, the major issues for Will have to deal with whether or not the school district is following the law, and less so what is being taught, because at the end of the day, if the community came together and said, this is what's important for us, this follows our values, then that's what's going to be, in compliance with the law. And, each community can kind of gauge where they want to be on such a serious and hard topic as human growth and development. But the frustrating part was when parents at the district were not being fully informed of some of the curriculum, and it was dealing with transgenderism, gender ideology, that kind of stuff. It wasn't included in the outline the parents were provided of what was going to be included in the curriculum, and parents then can't make an informed decision if they don't even know what's in the curriculum about whether or not they want to opt their child out.
Well, and I'm just looking now, and this was I believe in 2022, there are four, and I don't know if there are only 4 school board members. That doesn't seem right. It would seem to me that there would be an odd number. But do you know the size of the school board in Wrightstown?
Not off the top of my head, I don't. But we were aware of a couple of the members that have been discussing this committee and what needs to be done. There are some school board members that seem more inclined to follow the statute than others. But again, really our hope is just that parents have the information they need to make the decision, and that the school district follows the law that's set out in our Wisconsin statutes.
Well, and I guess the message in this, again, is that individual citizens, and you cite that you're more concerned about this school board complying with the law as opposed to the content. I mean, obviously we can discuss or debate what is appropriate content or not, but the fact that they're not being transparent, and that seems problematic in and of itself, because it seems as if that's the trend now in this country, is that for whatever reason those on the left don't want parents to know what is being taught in the public schools, and I asked the question, well, why what could be what's their motivation for doing that? I mean, why?
Right.
What are they trying to hide in doing that? And I guess that's why we need to be, as citizens in our individual communities, engaged and involved and paying attention to what the curriculum is, and the only way that you can determine what is going on at the local level with your various boards is to attend meetings and to read their agendas, and to and obviously, if you're a parent of children in the particular school district, in this case, you need to be very engaged and involved and be an advocate, be committed to being an advocate for your child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all about starting a conversation. The purpose of the committee in the statute really has to do with gauging the temperature of the community. And what is your community's values? What do you want to be taught on a contentious topic like this? And then that committee can advise the school board on the design and implementation of that curriculum, review the curriculum that's there, and then, making sure that parents are paying attention to the curriculum that is being taught and that they're being fully informed. That's not to say that the content isn't important. Obviously, conversations are happening all over the country about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate for specific age groups when it comes to sexuality and human growth and development. But at the same time, the way our statute is set up is for the communities to have that conversation. And that's what we're trying to ensure is happening. We don't want parents to be in the dark, and we want school districts to follow the law.
Well, and I just think, I'm reading an old, as we're chatting here, I'm just going through an old article from the Green Bay Press Gazette, and it highlighted, I guess, some of the school board members that were running for office in 2022. And this is why it's so important that individual citizens do their research with regard to any candidate that you are going to be voting for, or that you are contemplating voting for. And don't rely on, we all need to be engaged, involved, and informed citizens, and to not rely upon someone else to do the homework that each individual voter should be doing on their own. And I just was looking, and the questions that were asked, this was actually, several of them have to do with, I like to call it the shamdemic, Lauren, but some of them have to do with the way that the school district handled the shamdemic, and how they're now dealing with the after effects. I guess I think what the side effects of the decision making, the poor decision making in closing schools, and now how children are facing learning loss and depression, and a host of other issues as a result. But it really does speak to how important it is that we be engaged and involved. And it's not just someone on talk radio that does all the research and presents it to the listening audience. As individual citizens, we need to be paying attention to our local elected leaders and what they're doing, because I truly believe this is where we have the most influence. And if you're unhappy with a body of elected officials, what's the best way to make changes? Well, number one way would be to run for office. Number two way would be to develop relationships with those elected leaders and find out what their motivation is and where they stand on the issues that are important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in a small town like Wrightstown too, you're electing your next door neighbor, your, son's teacher or something, so you can have those conversations with people one-on-one. It's disheartening when it's a smaller group of people, when, everybody probably knows everybody, when we want these conversations to be happening. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's so important to really do your homework and do your research on who is representing you, and to not leave it up to someone else to do the research. Again, I think it's important that we all be engaged and involved. So I know that you've said that you anticipate, or you're hopeful that the school district is going to be in compliance. I presume that the conversations, at least that Will has had, if any, have been with school district attorney, or someone at a higher level that perhaps is advising you. I guess I'll ask you this: is how did you find out? How did you determine that they aren't beyond what this parent said? You stated that they acknowledge that they haven't been compliant. Is that because of a school board member or someone in their administration, or how did you discover that?
Yeah, so the parent actually brought recordings for us. We have them on tape saying they have never followed the law. So I heard it from the superintendent's mouth himself.
Wow.
The school board president, which is Nicole Durand.
Okay, all right. Well, that's really interesting. So I sincerely hope that that these parents in this school district are able to get the message out to their fellow community members, because it sounds to me, well, and I guess in your opinion, based on the recordings that you've heard, the school board president, does she appear to be defiant, or does she appear to want to to make amends and to be in compliance with what is required of them by law?
Sure. I mean, I only heard a snippet of what's going on, so I guess I can't speak entirely to where her head is at. But at the same time, I think the school board, well, let's back up a moment. In June this year, the school board attempted to do a committee that was completely not following the statute at all. They, less than 24 hours in advance, emailed a whole bunch of people in the community and were like, we're going to do this committee and we're going to check this box so that we don't get in trouble. And they didn't review any of the curriculum. No committee members actually saw any curriculum that was being used. And the parent that brought the issue to us then had a meeting with the superintendent and the school board president and said, this is not what I was saying you needed to be doing. This is still not in compliance. You know, you guys aren't, you're just trying to check a box so you don't get in trouble kind of a situation. And the school board president, Nicole, seemed a little bit more saying, you know, well, we already did this. We're not going to review every single piece of the curriculum. Like, that's not what this committee is supposed to be. So she, you know, I hope that she sees that this wasn't in compliance and that, you know, Will is committed to holding these schools accountable to the law and for advocating for the rights of parents to know what's happening in their child's classroom. You know, they have eyes on them. So we're hoping that that's all it takes and that they will see that this isn't in compliance and adjust accordingly.
Well, I am so grateful again for your organization, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. I mean, you guys are standing in the gap, and thankfully, I mean, there is somewhere where parents can go if issues like this come up. And again, it took this one mom to
Right.
speak up and to bring this to the attention of your organization. You know, it's reminiscent of, I think I was thinking of Sam Adams and a quote that that's attributed to him. It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. And I think about someone like Sam Adams and just how his example is inspirational for others to be engaged and involved, and how in this example, or in this particular case with this school district, it was one mom that brought it to the attention of your organization. And there may be change, we hope. I mean, we can be optimistic that there will be change as a result of her actions and the result of one person's actions. So it does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when do you anticipate? I mean, have you given the school district a deadline for their response to your requests?
Yeah, so we're hoping for a substantive response by the end of October, and we'd like to see compliance by the end of the year, the end of 2023. It's our understanding that the human growth and development curriculum is presented to the students in the spring. So if that's the case, then having this committee before the end of the year and reviewing the curriculum, getting advice from this committee, then the school board can move forward with the curriculum after it's been reviewed for the spring semester.
And again, this committee needs to be made up of, by law, it requires that both parents and community members are participating in this. Is that correct?
Yeah, parents, teachers, school administrators, students, healthcare professionals, members of the clergy, and other residents of the school district is the exact list that's in the statute.
And it would be, I guess it'll be interesting because often if there's a particular agenda in play, it'll be interesting to see if these particular people are handpicked to adhere to this agenda, if there indeed is an agenda that those on the school board are trying to purport in doing this. But, well, Lauren, thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate it, and I certainly hope that, well, I know that will keep me updated. I get all the press releases from your organization, and thank you so much for what you're doing on behalf of freedom and liberty here in Wisconsin.
Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for keeping up with us, and thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to our next conversation. That's Lauren Groyle, and if you need any more information about Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, go out to will-law.org and read about how you can actually participate in helping spread the word about freedom and liberty. Thanks again, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Meg.